Author is funded by the Pacific Northwest Writers Association, supporting writers from pen to publication since 1955. To learn more about the PNWA and their yearly conference, please go to pnwa.org. Hi, this is Bill Kenower of Author Magazine, and I'm here at Third Place Books in Lake Forest Park with Sarah Dessen, author of What Happened to Goodbye. Sarah, welcome to Author.
Thank you for having me.
So Sarah, I know that you were raised in an academic family, so books, and I know your father was a Shakespeare professor,
Yes.
and your mom was?
A classicist.
Okay, so just words, words, words.
Lots of books, lots of reading. Yeah, we were very much a reading house.
But you were a writer from early on, weren't you?
Yeah, and I think that comes from the reading, though. I always tell people when they say that they want to be a writer, you know, what should I do? I say you should read everything that you get your hands on. I think that's how I really learned. I think you can read books about writing and you can take writing classes, but until you actually read a lot of fiction, if you're going to be a fiction writer, and see how other people handle dialogue and plot setting and characterization and all that stuff. I remember growing up, I always wanted like sweaters for Christmas and necklaces,
Yeah.
and my mom bought me books, and I would be like, why do you always just buy me books? But I'm actually really grateful for it now.
You know, I think if you're sort of meant to be a writer, some part of you absorbs the rhythm of a story as it's told to you, the rhythm of prose and dialogue in a way that maybe people who aren't inclined to be writers would.
I think that you just see the world differently in a lot of ways. I think in some ways it explains why a lot of writers are so neurotic, because I think you're sort of, it's like your frequency is just really high. I mean, I feel like I can very easily pick up, it's really hard for me to like go to concerts because there's too many people and there's just too much happening, and I just sort of, but I just always am paying attention and seeing stuff. And I'm fascinated with people's stories. Like just here on the way here today, the driver and I were talking about how he has 7 kids and he's been married for 50 years and this and that, and this child he's not getting along with right now, and I'm like, I just could sit there and talk to him all day. I'm very interested in people's stories.
Because everyone has a story, don't they?
Everyone does.
Even everyone's story is interesting.
Yeah, and even if you don't write your story down, your story is fascinating. And I think other people's stories are so much more interesting than my own. I never want to talk about myself.
Your own as in your life?
And my life, yeah. I mean, I think the stories, that's why I'm a writer, because I think if my life was very fascinating, I wouldn't want to write. I'd just want to go out and be swashbuckling around the world or something, but as it is, I think it helps for me that my life is pretty domestic and quiet, so that I can go off in my head and do these other things.
When your readers talk to you, what is it they want to communicate to you? Besides, I love the book, which I assume they want to.
Well, the nicest compliment I get is people saying, your book got me through high school. People that are sort of a little bit, I was in Los Angeles at the book festival, and I had yesterday, and I had a lot of girls come through and say, your books they saved me in high school. And as someone who had a lot of trouble in high school and found a lot of solace in books, and often felt like nobody around me understood what I was going through, but I could open a book and feel like I had found a home or something. That's the biggest compliment to me, is that anything that I wrote, even if it's just a sentence that made somebody feel a little bit better about where they were as an adolescent. I mean, I couldn't ask for anything more than that.
It's a great gift, isn't it?
It is. I'm very
Because I had the
grateful.
same experience of feeling like I didn't go to church, but poetry was my temple.
Exactly.
Poetry books was where I found
Yeah.
the people saying what I needed to hear.
Exactly, and often it's, wherever you are in the world, whatever small town you're living in, you may not hear what you need to hear from the people around you, but that's the great thing about books, is anytime you go to a library or a bookstore, you have that opportunity to find something that might help you, and that is why I'm really grateful to my mom, actually, for all those books I got for Christmas instead of sweaters, because I wouldn't feel that way about a sweater. Like a sweater probably wouldn't get me through high school, but a book, on the other hand, very much so.
But did you ever have trouble allowing yourself to become one of those people who could be of use to a teenager? I mean, in other words, that can seem like such a holy job, right? Not to save someone's life, but almost, in a way, almost. Now just little Sarah is doing that too. Did you ever have to get over that hump?
I think if you think about it when you're writing, you'll make yourself crazy. I mean, for me, it's like I have 2 lives. I have this life where I'm out here tonight, and I'm going to go speak to these girls, and ideally they'll be very happy and excited to see me. And then I have my writing life, which is at home in North Carolina with my daughter and my husband and my dogs and my chickens, going to Whole Foods, going to preschool drop-offs.
It's so plain, isn't it?
It's so plain, but if I sat there and thought, I am writing things that are going to help people get through high school, I would be in a ball under my desk. Like, you just can't think like that.
You know what I would worry about? I look at my son, and and the sort of memes and the habits. And I look at my own, I would want to write about my teenagehood, but that's different
Right.
than what they're doing now. And I want to, you know, God forbid you become anachronistic in your
Right.
details, right?
You have to be really careful, and I think if people read my books closely, you'll see that I very much shy away from using slang, even technology, pop culture,
yeah.
because I remember, you know, I think that's the stuff that changes. Teenagers are the first to notice if you're catering. I was at a school this morning, we were talking about this, like a lot of people, especially with YA being so popular with Twilight and the Hunger Games, people say, oh, I'm going to go write YA, I'm going to throw in a lot of references to Tumblr and Pinterest and Justin Bieber, and you know, and now I'm a YA writer, but it's more than that, and I try to stick to the stuff that is the same, not everything that is different. So for me, it's the relationships you have with your parents, with your friends, with the opposite sex, like you said, your first job, all these different things that haven't, stick with the things that are timeless rather than things that are going to be in fluctuation. Like I just recently started using texting in my books. I was like, well, I guess this is here to stay. You know, and I tend to be, I hold off, you know, because I don't want someone to read it and feel like it's really dated. So hopefully that's the case.
What did you learn writing this book? Because I feel like every book teaches you something, don't they? And this one, what did you learn writing this book?
Well, this book, the original draft, I got about halfway through it, and then I sort of took a left turn and I went off and finished it, and I just had a bad feeling, like I just knew that the second half was not as strong as the first half. But I never want to believe that, so I always go to my agent, who is, I call her the one true voice. She's a New York agent, and she is brutally honest, which I appreciate.
Right.
And she said, I love the first half of this book, but you got to rewrite the second half. And I was like, oh, you know. So I think one thing I learned, as far as the writing process, I learned something every book. And for this one, it was, if you feel like you're going in the wrong direction, for God's sake, stop. It's like when you're lost, you take the wrong turn off an interstate, and you're like, well, maybe if I go left here, or maybe if I take this exit.
You don't outline, do you?
I don't outline. I don't start a book, though, until I have what I call my skeleton, which is first scene, last scene, climactic scene, first line. And then, of course, those things shift over the course.
Right.
But if I start books with no idea where I'm going, I'm at 200 pages and nothing has happened. But if I start with an outline, I'm such a control freak that I would feel like I couldn't veer from that. And often the things that are the best in the books are the things that are unexpected.
Right.
So it's finding the mix between having a plan but not being so married to the plan that you can't keep your opportunities open.
All right, well, I've got one more question for you, Sarah. And what I'd like you to do is finish the sentence for me.
Oh dear, okay.
You ready? If writing has taught me anything, it has taught me what?
That I know nothing. From day to day, that every day is different. I can sit down, because I'm very much a creature of habit with my writing, so I can sit down at the same time every day at the same computer with the same 2 pieces of chocolate and follow the same routine, and one day will be wonderful and the next day will be terrible. And I hate that, because I want everything to be under my control. But at the same time, I think it provides me with the sense of chaos that actually is crucial to me.